Hi everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. A lot of you already know that Elena Brower is a world-renowned yoga and meditation teacher, and a mommy. And she writes a lot about, she's a poet, teacher. She writes a lot about the connection between body and mind and heart and soul and dignity and permission. Yeah. She's a chaplaincy candidate. She's a lay Buddhist. She was just given a title or something or other, whatever those nutty Buddhists do, by Roshi Joan Halifax. What was it called, the name of it's like...
So I took the precepts, Buddhist precepts, and Roshi Joan gave me my Dharma name, which is Ansui, which means peaceful or safe water.
I love that. And then, but when Joan gave you this honor or this, there's a word for it that's very beautiful, Buddhist word?
Jukai.
Jukai. She's going to be a chaplain, Buddhist chaplain. So Neil's daughter is going to be also. Neil's daughter has just gone, or is about to start school to be in there's sort of a Thich Nhat Hanh wing of Union Seminary.
Yep.
Yeah, get an MDiv.
So good.
Oh, God. So we were here because I really want you to know about her upcoming book, which is out in November. It's called Hold Nothing, and I think you're going to love it. And I'm going to let her tell you about it. She's leaving at 5 tomorrow morning, so I feel very blessed that we went back and forth. Could we make this happen? Well, no, I can't do it. No, I won't be there Monday night. No, how about? So I feel really blessed that in her last few hours here with us at Blue Spirit, that she could make this time for us. So anyway, why don't you just tell everybody about yourself in a fuller way than I did.
Okay. But you did great.
Thank you.
So, my son is almost 19, and he's probably my favorite thing to talk about. He's going into his second year of college, and at the time as he started sort of leaving, I became very aware of what I wanted to do with my time when he left. And I decided that I wanted to attempt in some way to become close to a chaplain. It seemed so weird at the time. I don't even know where the idea came from. But I was sitting facing the wall for a lot of hours in Zazen at Upaya Zen Center. And suddenly that seemed like a really good idea. I've been volunteering like crazy at hospice, the penitentiary, teaching yoga and meditation to level 2 gentlemen who are just dear, wonderful humans, and working with an organization that's actually serving women, incarcerated, healing women as well. And that's a big passion of mine. Why are we not paying attention to these people? They just made a mistake that was a little bigger than ours. And no one's paying any mind to them. So I like to pay them some mind. And I'm also working with kids in grief, whether it's due to death or of a sibling or a parent, or deportation, which is very common, obviously, right now, and particularly where I live in New Mexico. The stories, wow, you think you know, and then you hear them live, and you enter into somebody's home. You can't imagine. In any case, that's really where my heart is. I have lots of other things that I do. I love teaching yoga online. I love doing a couple of small businesses that I have, but really my heart is in communal chaplaincy. That's where it is. I'm just so happy to be here and so thankful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For doing this. And I even this is the first glance at the cover, the actual cover. We've had it printed. The book is called Hold Nothing. And it is basically, speaking of permission slips, It's a series of permission slips to just be more tender with yourself. That's what this is. And it's coming through a series of stories of my own experience of letting go. I know that I'm still a baby at 55, but I have a few good stories from starting in childhood all the way to now. And that's what we're traveling through in this book.
And you recently, within the last few years, I think, addressed your addiction.
That is a true story.
Can you tell us that story?
Yes, I can. I'm almost 12 years sober. Feels so good.
Wow, unbelievable.
And I think the lowest point was one day when it was like the 6th day in a row. I'd be dropping my kid off at school and then running home, watching my hand reach into the closet for the little pretty pouch of marijuana and rolling up the thing and putting a little tobacco in it. Who's that? I mean, wow. And rolling it up and going up to the roof. Like, there were so many moves that had to be made in order to make this thing happen. Mm-hmm. Going up to the roof with the lighter and a special shell ashtray. Anyone? And finally, it was like day 6 in a row that I was saying to myself aloud, this is the last day. Mm-hmm. And not heeding my own love for myself. Mm-hmm. And finally, I got to that 6th day, and this was at the end of 6 years, and who knows how long. And I walked downstairs, I took all of the things, I put them in a garbage bag, I brought them down, I gave them to my doorman.
To your who?
My doorman.
Oh,
I was living
doorman.
in New York at the time. Right. And he would be the one who was watching the cameras. He would mm-hmm. watch me every day. Mm-hmm. He knew what was going on. Oh, yeah. Boy, it was rough. And I gave it to him. And I said, here, you take this, because if I throw it out, I'm going to go get it again. Don't let me. And that was the end of it.
Yeah. And when did that start? Did you say 6 years of it? Or lifelong?
I mean, this has been going on since I was 15.
Okay.
And I'm 55 now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then...
So 30 years, like, roughly.
Mm-hmm. But you've been teaching yoga and meditation for years. What, stoned?
No, I would do...
Elena!
Hi, everybody. No, I would smoke in the morning, as I mentioned, after the kid would get dropped off at school. And then I would get all better.
Uh-huh.
And then I wouldn't teach until at least 4 p.m.
Uh-huh.
4 or 6.
Uh-huh.
On Saturdays, I wouldn't smoke because I was teaching at 11 a.m.
Uh-huh.
Church.
And was it hard for you when you didn't smoke, when it was a Saturday and you couldn't really?
No, because I had a purpose. Yeah. And I knew I knew I needed to be in my right mind.
Uh-huh.
It mattered to me.
Uh-huh.
Sacred Saturdays in New York, it mattered.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you write about it so beautifully. I would like, we'll leave a bunch of time for questions and answers because we're both writers. Neil's a writer. We know that you're very nice about listening to us talk and read, but that you secretly love the Q&A. So we'll leave a time for that. But I was wondering if you might read something from the section called Opening into Presence.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm going to let you pick one. Open into
Presence.
Compassion, open into love, open into listening. What would you...
Open into love.
Open into love. To learn, this is a quote, it starts with a quote from Roshi Joan, actually.
Okay.
To learn how to open ourselves when we want to close, to let go, to notice how much we ruminate when things hurt, and to surrender that too. To practice releasing our assumptions, dying all the time to what we thought defined our reality. And if we do, we might also start to perceive the interdependence of suffering and joy You've taught me this.
Oh.
That life and death are not separate but intertwined like roots deep in the earth. Sitting on my 9-year-old son Jonah's bed in New York playing air hockey, procrastinating on cooking dinner and preparing for a class I'm meant to teach in Brooklyn tonight, my phone rings. It's my sister. My mother's had a heart attack, and it's likely going to mean the end of her life right now, today, maybe tomorrow. Moving about carefully so I don't start uncontrollably weeping, I'm packing luggage, offering a few measured tips to Jonah about what to pack. I can hear my mother's voice as a whisper in my head. Nice shoes. Bring some nice shoes to go with the dress. She's referencing the funeral dress I just placed in the garment bag, very matter-of-factly. Next stop, Penn Station, where I'll board the train to the town where she gave birth to me, to the same hospital where she will take her last breaths in about 40 hours from now. I spent so much of my 20s and 30s wishing she'd give me a little more space. And every time I close my eyes during the next 2 days, those moments are all I can see in the slideshow of my consciousness. Her longing face pleading with me, why not just stay? Why don't you just stay? Forgiving myself will become a practice in the coming days, weeks, years. Every time I close my eyes and open myself to feel, I keep seeing her biggest, most engaging smiles from my childhood when she was everything. My practice is to keep opening to that love, no matter what I'm doing. After she passes, painful states acutely arise and then pass. And so many times since I've watched it happen, both in Zazen, which is just Zen meditation, and in my day-to-day, learning to clearly observe the changing nature of the mind, at once sullen, longing just to call her, talk to her, tears falling. Then the next moment, I hear her offering some sage wisdom that stops me from falling into an unhelpful thought pattern. She's right here. She's always here. The interdependence and simultaneity of suffering and joy is incontrovertible evidence of our impermanence. Each time we let go of some old pattern or belief, a part of us passes on, revealing more depth and presence. Our work is to engage the energy beneath the passing emotions, to soothe ourselves with unshakable presence. We're here to remember that love never dissipates. It endures with tenacity within every deep sorrow.
Opening into presence. What layers of your personality, though, have helped you survive?
It's funny, there's a story in here. Did anyone grow up in a house where your parents fought a great deal? And it was kind of, it was innocuous. I knew there wasn't physical destruction happening, but there was a lot of fighting, and it was very painful for me. And the layer of personality that I built up to kind of guard myself against that, I have had to dismantle little by little, and that's been kind of the first line of work upon sitting as a Buddhist, you know, facing the wall, just kind of like, wow, it's just you and me, kid. Okay, what are we doing? That's the thing that comes up the most, is that hearing them.
Yeah. And where in your life are you still trying to be good? And how does that impact you today?
Everywhere.
Same.
Fuck.
Everywhere. I have to tell you this, Elena. We were at the beach today, Neil and a few of us, and we were at the tide pools, and there was a crab that hadn't quite, a snail. It hadn't quite gotten to the water, whereas all the other snails, happier snails, were crawling around and doing snaily things. And this other one wasn't there. And I said to Neil, I really want to help that snail. Do you think I should put it in the water? He's so used to this that I think I'm the flight attendant, to the tide pools, to everywhere. At the airport, I get out I'm a Sunday school teacher. I get out stickers and crayons at the airport when I see an upset child. But Neil will remember we were traveling fairly recently, and I got out my iPad to amuse an upset child, and then I dropped it on her head. But they're so unattached to it. So that she needed mommy for a couple of minutes, and then I had her in the palm of my hand. But so where are you still, mostly still trying to be good?
My kid is almost 19, as I mentioned, and I think I still try and be really perfect and cool for him. And I get it right maybe 20% of the time. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it, I'm just not cool. I'm just not that cool. Mm-hmm. I wish I was. Mm-hmm. But I remember thinking my mother wasn't cool either, and she was the coolest thing on earth. Mm-hmm. I now look back and I think, wow, she was so cool. Mm-hmm. What the hell was wrong with me? Mm-hmm. And that gives me a little bit of comfort.
Yeah. Well, I realized in Al-Anon about, my son's almost 36. Mm-hmm. I realized, and he went through a long period of drugs and alcohol, meth and alcohol and stuff, but I realized I was addicted to his happiness.
Totally.
Right? And that if my son was doing well, then I could be well. If he was happy, I could be happy. And the hardest work I've ever done is to let him be unhappy, let him know that will be his greatest teacher, let him figure it out. I mean, I always joke about this, but I would like to run alongside him on his hero's journey with a juice box.
A little Capri Sun.
Or an Honest
With
Kids.
With a straw.
With a straw already in it so that it's not hard for him to get it out of the plastic. And some sunscreen. And the hardest work I've done, and it's with my grandson too, who lives at our house, who's 16 almost. He's driving next month. He's get his license next month. I thought he was 9 or something. I said to him once, I said, when he turned 9, I said, I thought you were 5 or 6. He said, Nana, I live here. How can you think I'm 5 or 6? And I said, you will know someday. You will know. But at any rate, the hardest work I've done is to break, to a certain degree, 80%, 70%, Neil's going 40%, the addiction to my son's happiness.
Without fear.
Yeah, and releasing him to the care of his own higher power,
yes.
Who turns out not to be me. Horribly. I'm not even my own higher power, but I thought I was his.
I was sure of that.
I know, right? Because we're good higher powers.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have good ideas for other people.
Yep. Great ideas for other people.
All other people.
What I'm coming to realize, I had a teacher once, I said, why are you here? She's like an alien, really great yoga teacher, older. And she said, well, I'm here to be a great mother and efficiently use what I have.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting any of those words to come out in that order.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Mm. Just efficiently use what you have and don't
efficiently
try and get a result.
Yeah. When Sam was in the worst shape of his life at 17, and I didn't know if he was going to survive, and I was sharing in our group today, I had to release him to whatever his choice about how to live this one fleeting, precious life was. And I made peace-ish with the fact that I might lose him, And, but I also, by the same token, was his authority till he was 18, till he reached maturity, so I could send him away. And I found this incredibly profound three-month retreat place at the highest peak of the Alleghenies. You'll remember I live in San Francisco.
Yes.
And it wasn't to get him away, it was because it was the right place.
Yeah.
Right? It was very based in Native American, sweat lodges and communal living and stuff. But first a month of outdoors, and it was November. It was freezing cold. It was late November, and there was this woman named Mickey, I'll never forget, and she had sent her son off, and I'd always kind of been scared. I'd think, God, you sent your son away? I literally love my son more than life. way more. And I thought, you sent your son away? And I had another woman, an older woman, tell me once she left her son in jail when he got arrested. And I said, you left your son in jail? She said, he wouldn't be alive if I hadn't.
Wow.
And so with Sam, I was with this at a reading one night. It wasn't my reading, but with Mickey. And I said, I kind of remember you saying that you sent your son off to rehab, and he'd been sober forever afterwards. And she said, oh, yeah, I mean, it saved his life. It was the worst thing it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And he's alive, and he's sober, and he has a life now. He didn't have a life. And I said, well, there's a place I can send him, but I would have to send him the day after tomorrow, because they had an opening, because they only had 5 to 6 kids. They had 5, and they would take him, if I could get him 3,000 miles away. And I knew he wasn't going to travel with me, because I knew that he wasn't going to be able to stand me once he heard what I was doing. And I said to her, oh my God, and I said I could pull it off, because I'm like the ever-ready bunny. And I said, but it's snowing, it's outdoors for a month. It's wilderness, and it's snowing. And she looked at me just with the flattest reptilian look, and she said, bummer. And I went home, and I called the 24-hour line. It was called Aldridge Academy. And I said, I can get my son to you Tuesday. This was a Sunday night. And what does he need?
Yeah.
He needs
a parka.
He needs a parka, and he needs, khakis and warm clothes, and he needs to see a doctor. So the next day, I just very casually said, you've got to get your physical if you're going to go to college. So he got a physical.
Wow.
And that night, I called a friend, this huge black guy, which I mentioned because he was huge, and he was like, and Sam adored him. He'd been very close to his son, who had died because he didn't get into recovery. And so Sam adored this guy, Frank, and I mean, he was this big guy. And so people were at our house, my boyfriend and my younger brother and Sam's big brother, because Sam didn't have a dad growing up. And we were watching a baseball game. And I said to Sam, in a few minutes, Frank is going to show up, and you're all packed up, and I'm sending you with Frank to the Allegheny Mountains, where there's a 3-month recovery center for you. And he said, yeah, right. He was stoned. He said, yeah, right. And I said, yeah. And he said, fuck you. And that was the last I heard of him for a month. And that was when I broke the addiction to him being happy. That was 17 years ago.
What he really meant was thank you.
Well, he didn't know what he meant yet. But, I mean, we posted the man at the doorway because he would have bolted.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said, fuck you. And I had to say, wow, great. That's pretty real. That's pretty real. And plus he got to spend 24 hours in a car and in planes and then driving in another car up to Allegheny's. And now here's the thing. So he was there, and then he was in a second recovery, a tofu farm, an organic tofu farm outside of Spokane. I'm not making any of this up. He loved it. He had deep, deep, deep healing and psychiatry, came back to Fairfax and was dealing the next day. Right? So like Neil and I always joke that what Orson Welles said is, you're writing a happy or a sad story depending on where you end it. Okay, so he's dealing the next day. And we always say in the program that the willingness to change comes from the pain. And when Sam had finally created enough pain, he had a baby at 19, and he had created enough pain at 22, and he found the only people, not darling mom, who gave him life, who ruined her figure,
Irreparably.
The sober men in the San Francisco Fellowship took him under their wing, and he hasn't had a drink or a drug since. So, but yeah, I mean, that addiction to needing your child to be okay in order for you to be okay is something that Al-Anon, if you haven't discovered this, is very helpful.
Yeah.
Will you do another reading for us?
I will. Thank you so much for telling me that story for many reasons that I'll someday share.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you can have that. You can use them in your next book. Um, so will you read something from Empty of Insight?
Yes.
I want you to read that because some of Neil's work involves teaching his clients the profound place of saying, I don't know. You know, and because you're supposed to know, right? And if you grew up around intellectuals, which I did, you should know. You're expected to know. If you don't know, you're handed a book, which will help you know. You need to know the next thing you're going to do. It should be the right thing. You should make the right decision because you have to stick with it because you don't get to change your mind because we've been talking about this for several days. You decided, right? And when Neil first started saying to me, try I don't know, it's like, what? I don't know. How could I know? How could I know?
Dude, you ever hear of the Zen Peacemaker's Order? Anyone?
Kind of. Tell us about that.
Bernie Glassman, who was my Roshi Jones' teacher, she's one of my teachers. He co-founded with her and some other folks the Zen Peacemaker's Order. And he made his life about serving the unsheltered, and bringing those of us who do have shelter into the street and experiencing what life as an unsheltered person is for many days on end. And then they would just follow basically the Zen schedule in parks. He would take people to Auschwitz and they would sit there over Thanksgiving in the middle of November when it's freezing in Poland. His Zen Peacemaker's Order has 3 tenets. The first is not knowing.
Oh, cool.
The second is based on the fact that we know nothing, no sabemos nada. Bearing witness. What does it mean? It feeds into this actually that you picked.
Good.
What does it mean to just be listening to somebody and not actually imposing any understanding or knowledge on the matter, just listening? That was not my MO. I built up one of the things that I'm letting go as being the smartest person in the room and knowing what I know and going to an Ivy League school and all these ridiculous things that you think matter so much. Actually, no, none of it matters. The third tenet of the 3 is actually taking some kind of compassionate action based on the fact that you don't know and you're just able to bear witness or listen to someone. And so if you think about maybe there's somebody in your life, it's really hard to be around them or it's difficult to relate to them in some way. What if you map these 3 tenets on? Not knowing. I have no idea what's going on here. Bearing witness. There you are. Being yourself. If I could accept this, I wonder. And taking some kind of compassionate action, which is really just not arguing with reality. You teach this to me all the time in all of your writing. Don't argue with reality. Be empty of insight. What if emptiness is sacred ground, a place of being in which we can rest our assumptions, listen to the silence, learn from the space around us? Practicing emptying ourselves of insight might reveal the stillness existing at the heart of all the strategies we employ to succeed, conquer, and grow. What if our practice of reflection is more healing than any insight we might be having? It's a great story, actually. It's fun that you chose this one. As a graduate student in art education in my late 20s, I learned another meaning for emptiness, one that would return decades later to enliven my understanding of service. I was tutoring 7 to 12-year-old kids with their homework in the early evenings at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, New York.
Oh.
It's the best. I exit the subway in the darkening evening once a week all winter that year. I often pass by a closely huddled crew of 5 or 6 men with their hands over a fire and a trash can to keep themselves warm. Every visit to the church feels like a tender tug of war for the kids' attention. When I begin working with them, I have no idea that these hours are going to make an indelible imprint on me, too. Over time, I learned my real mission, not to come with knowledge or insight, but to come empty, open, and listening. I won't have the words until more than 20 years later for what I've come to know as the practice that serves best in almost every context. One of the first nights, I'm sitting very still as I connect with a boy who needs help with his English assignment, and I can sense his need to build trust in me and in himself before he can write down his thoughts. Fearful that I'll do something wrong, I invite him to take out his pencil and paper, asking a few creative questions rather than jumping into an essay. He's visibly relieved, and so am I. I ask him to identify some sensations in his body and thoughts as he considers the impact of the work and life of Martin Luther King Jr., the topic for his short paper. And he begins. He writes really easily and swiftly. It was such a joy as he touched into this very clear vision. From a few simple inquiries arises a thoughtfully crafted, layered piece of writing that he writes about 400 words. And you can see, I saw this, his sense of trust in himself brought tears to my eyes. I'll never forget it. There was nothing to fear, after all, for either of us. The empty, open questions so often hold the answers. Releasing our fear, learning, and truly growing require us to arrive empty, to keep asking. The pages to come bring us to an empty field where we can prioritize our questions instead of trying to come up with answers. And then there's a great quote from Tokapa Turner, her book Belonging. Like the bowl that has yet to be filled, there is an emptiness that precedes creativity that is alive with potential. Tokapa Turner. Mm-hmm. And to serve others, finally, we must let any fear of failure dissolve. I can't walk into the hospice knowing what's needed, fixing the thing, making it better. We don't need to have stunning insights or perfect answers, only an earnest effort to serve and a willingness to let go of what we think we know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I'll tell you can I tell you a story now? It's an I don't know story. My mom got Alzheimer's she had Alzheimer's for a long time, but in around 2000, she got really sick with it. And so we finally had this gerontology nurse come. I have two brothers, one older, one younger. And she was so lovely. I mean, she was like God with skin on, you know. And yeah. And we said, well, we don't know. She has diabetes too, and we don't know if she's getting her insulin. And we don't. She goes to Safeway. She steals bread. She did, and then the tellers loved her so much they just always pay. She'd sneak out with bread under her, and we'd say, we don't know this. We don't know how long she can stay here because she was in semi, and we don't know if and she just listened. And then she said, "How could you know?" It hadn't crossed our minds.
That we wouldn't.
It hadn't crossed our minds. How could we know? We thought we were just failing at knowing and at having it together, and it changed everything. And then Neil, years and years ago, with his eldest son, had been sent by the wife to wherever his son was because the wife was convinced that he was just a mess. And he needed this, and he needed a parent, he needed a father, and he needed a talk. He needed direction. And so Neil was going to go do that. One does. And then somewhere, I forgot if it was on the plane or at the airport or in the car on the way to the airport or when he landed, he suddenly realized he didn't have a clue what this boy that he loved so much needed. He didn't have a clue who this boy, even he was a young man, who he even was at that point in his life. He knew who he had been other times, and he didn't know who he was going to be with. And so he just showed up with, I don't know, and in the not knowing. And they just fell in love.
Yeah.
And Neil had no position. Neil didn't need him to hear anything or change anything. I just love you so much. So I wanted to ask you, how is practicing emptiness offered an antidote to expectation?
It is the work with the kid.
Yeah.
Actually, what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
It's the main focus of my attention, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Still 19, so I have to show up to him with nothing every single time.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only practice that I have right now, is not kind of tried to imprint my own understanding of life or my own expectations of him. I'm just showing up. How are you doing? We have to go on a really long road trip when I get home to go sign his lease for the second year of school. And my plan is like to say as little as possible and just to be present in the car and listen to whatever he wants and drive whenever he wants me to drive. And that's plenty.
Yeah.
And pray real hard.
Release, release, release. In AA we say, and Al-Anon we say, expectations are resentments under construction.
Dude.
And resentments are premeditated resentments.
Dude.
You know, expectation, I mean, it's 90% of my problems is that I want things to be this way, and I hope things go this way, and I hope nothing too unusual happens that will throw me, you know.
It's such a negotiation.
So how do you let go of expectation?
I don't know.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I truly have no idea.
Yeah.
It's like a moment-to-moment endeavor. I have no idea.
Here's what I do, or what helps me, and I bet it's true for you also. I say it out loud, like I would say it to you, or I'd say it to anyone here. You know, I really need for the 12-step meetings to go a certain way tonight, and I'm kind of worried because we're getting a late start and this and that. And if I told anyone, they wouldn't say. My mother's battle cry was, "Oh, for Christ's sake, Annie," because I had a lot of anxiety and had migraines and anxiety, and I would think that I'd say all this material, "Oh, for Christ's sake, Annie." But not a single soul would say that to me here. If I said, I'm really anxious, you know, I have your hearts on my mind for our meetings and for our this, and I want you to like my husband and think I made a good choice, and this, and nobody would say, "Oh, for Christ's sake, Annie." They'd say, "Oh my God, me too, I'm exactly that way too." Or the story about the crab, wanting to put the crab in the water. Anyone hearing that would go, "Oh, I would have," you know. Or I thought it too. I was down there early and I thought it too. So for me, like, you know, in AA and 12-step, people are saying, "Let go and let God," you know, and it drives me crazy because if I could have, and I want to just poke them with a plastic fork in their forehead like a baked potato, because if I had been able to let go and let God, I definitely would have, believed me, I wouldn't have made myself tweaked and anxious and clenched. But the way I let go, and this is almost 100% of the time, I say it out loud to Neil or to my son or to my best friend. I say, "Do you have a minute?" Sometimes I'll say to Neil, "Can I tell you something really, really awful?" And he'll say, yeah. And then he doesn't go, "Well, that's not awful, Annie, that's stupid." You know, he goes, "Oh yeah, thank you, I get it." Yeah. You know, but so the way I let go, both of expectations, which are really my main problem, is that I say it out loud. It just breaks the chain. And also, you get your sense of humor back about it, because the person goes, "Oh, do you have a minute? Do you have a minute?" And they want to tell you about what they were expecting here and how that's not happening, and like I woke up, we flew to Liberia, and we stayed, and the first night I woke up at 3:30 and wide awake. And I instantly started going, because I had the crazy family too. So you do the catastrophic thinking as a way of protecting yourself. It's a misguided way of self-soothing. And I wake up at 3:30 and go, "Oh God, I'm not going to go back to sleep. It's completely fucked. And I'm going to be very sick tomorrow. And I'm not going to enjoy my first day in Costa Rica." So then I kind of went, "I know, honey." I do that because that's my work. I went, "I know, honey." And I said, "Why don't we just do our mantra? And then we'll do some breathing." And so like 10 or 15 minutes later, I woke up an hour and a half later, right? But I woke up, it was only 5:15. And you know what I did? I went, "Oh my God, I'm not going to get enough sleep. I'm an hour ahead. So it's really 4:30, 4:15 in California. So I'm going to be doubly tired and I'm going to be cranky." And then I went like this. I went, "I know, honey. I know. I love you so much. Why don't we do our little mantra and some meditation, do some breath work?" And then 2 hours later, I woke up.
7.
Yes, at 7, and I felt wonderful. So,
you know what I do in those moments?
What?
I'll do a little bit of Reiki on my body, but I'll actually say to myself, "You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great."
Yeah.
Those 3 words. It's all, "You're doing great."
Yeah.
Doing the best you can.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everything kind of settles.
Yeah.
and
The
relaxes.
pond settles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was little, I used to do a lot of cleaning when I would wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, yeah.
I would take my little Hello Kitty figurines on the shelf and I would dust each one. I made a little tissue duster. You can't imagine. And I would dust each one and I would place it, I would take it off, I would dust it and then place it back on the shelf. And that was very comforting to me for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it's just, you're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another very important part of the book. And what I wanted, it almost brings me to tears to say what it is, but it's the section about witnessing the self. Witnessing the self through the eyes of love.
Yeah.
Witnessing the self through the same eyes with which I witness everybody here's process. I'm like proud of you. I'm proud of you when you share and you cry and you're clueless. And I feel like, wow, that's amazing. What it takes to get us there. And to witness the self not as we were witnessed as children, as maybe, and for girls especially, witnessed as people that men would want to have sex with or flirt with or have those sexualized eyes on us. Like when I was a child, my eyes were really huge, and there was these men, and I would play tennis with them. They were tennis men, and I was really good at tennis, so they'd play with me when I was really young, and they'd say things to me like, wow, you have bedroom eyes. Has anyone ever told you you have bedroom eyes?
Oh, God.
And they would do endless variations on that. You know, oh my God, your skin is still so soft. Because their wives had lives and babies and age. And I was 9. You know, and so to begin to witness yourself without the shit on the, you know, I always tell the story about the guy, the priest who really helped Bill Wilson get AA off the ground, said to him, sometimes I think that heaven is just a new pair of glasses. You know, and that's what this section is really about. It's witnessing from the heart and the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am picking a section called Your Vision. I think it's pretty relevant. Somehow it starts recognizing those who actively support my choices always leads to more support.
So read that again.
You've taught me this.
Yeah, read that again.
Somehow recognizing those who actively support my choices always leads to more support.
Yeah. Wow.
Each time I've reached out to thank someone for their care, let's say, more is offered. When I first began cultivating a vision of true service, I found myself in an unusual situation, one that gave rise to a major shift in my vision years later. Nervously entering my uncle's hospice room as a new mother in my late 30s, I literally had the 2-year-old on my shoulders, handed him to my husband, who was my husband at the time, soon to not be, and said, I gotta go, I'm gonna go do this thing, I'll be back in an hour. I go in, it's just my cousin, my young adult cousin, and me in the room. Our mothers are my uncle's sisters. And this guy, let me read it. Our uncle's body is significantly smaller than we've known. An imposing owner of businesses and keeper of secrets he will never tell. We're both pretending to be unmoved by this deterioration, Ben and me. This is my first time being in close proximity to a body in the dying process. Within a day, he will expire. Somehow a burgeoning knowing emerges within me. I'm in sacred territory. I don't know how I knew that. Sitting near his bed for several minutes, listening to his shallow, labored breathing, I allow myself to get quiet and trust that the right action will reveal itself to me. After some time, hesitation gives way to a sense of trust in the natural connection we've shared. An inscription in the book of Monet paintings he gifted me when I was a child suddenly warms my mind. Did it say something about trusting my heart and following my dreams? He was always such an energetic force, and he saw me for the person I am. Ben, sitting next to me, is just a teenager holding space with maturity. Together, we're unexpectedly witnessing the ending of this life, forming a bond that will become a close, enduring friendship all the way to now. Intuitively, I begin practicing a form of energy work. Has anyone ever heard of pranic healing? So this is what I'm doing. I've been trained like up to level 2. I kind of had no right, but suddenly there I was. From several inches above his resting body, my hands sweep the length of his body, vigorous movements to clear the energetic field of any residue of fear, because I could sense that his body was afraid. He was afraid. When that naturally comes to a close, we allow several minutes of silence. We witness his body relax. We stand. We say goodbye in our own ways. We offer our respect and make our way out of the hospice. A few years from now, my cousin and I will recall with some incredulity the palpable feeling of release in that room. Our uncle passed one day later. This was sort of what predicated applying for this chaplaincy program. I put it all together as I was writing the book. I'd forgotten about that for a long time. But that being near somebody dying, raise your hand if you have been near. Yeah,
everyone.
So sacred. Like, I thought I was going to be so scared. It was so beautiful. It's such a holy time. I can't believe how much I enjoy being present for it now. It's so weird.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm always present for someone who's dying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, it's been my work. I wanted to ask then about that. How has life shifted as you have moved towards invisibility in service, toward quiet, meaningful work with whoever it is that needs you without recognition? Because we have both had a lot of recognition, and that is very, very addictive.
Yeah, I was never really all that comfortable with it.
No.
No,
Well, I wasn't either, but that didn't stop me.
Right. Right. Yeah, I kind of forged and kind of fudged my way through it all this time. But I am so comfortable now with that as my sort of truth, the underlying subterranean truth. And now I can be in front of anybody at any time, and I can look a whole audience in the eyes, which I never could before. No problem. Doesn't scare me anymore because I know what I'm really here for. It's not yes, it's for this, it's to share, and because my editor really wanted me to write a book about myself. I had a whole different book.
What was the other book?
I mentioned the shitty first draft in this book. It was so shitty. It was basically a book by a 52-year-old who had been practicing Zen for 2 or 3 years about Zen. You did not want to read this book.
Beginner's mind.
Beginners, it really was, really silly, actually. She said, look, we're going to save this one.
Yeah.
Let's see how it is. You're going to start over, though. And I was like, wow, dude. So this book took a long time to actually get finished. But it was like that. Now being invisible is my favorite thing. Just go to the hospice once a week. Go to the penitentiary once a month. Disappear.
Oh, I love that. Why don't we just have one more section in reading? I want to talk about fear. And then we'll have some questions and answers. But I love the stuff about seeing from within. To see from within with tenderness. What you find there beneath the noise, the patterns of past, the fear is already worthy of care. The arc here is self-tending. So will you read?
I have a good one for you.
Oh, good.
Waves of Listening, it's called.
Okay.
Sometimes offering our open, unbiased, unfiltered awareness is the best kind of listening. When we practice deep listening rather than distracting ourselves or turning away, we can learn information to help us understand our people, our community, and our world. So the story goes like this. One quiet winter night, my partner is almost asleep. You just met him. And I lie down gently so as not to wake him. He stirs and then begins speaking. The story unfurls about the Mr. Spock doll he'd once found in the trash room of his building on Amsterdam Avenue in New York in the 70s. We couldn't afford such an expensive toy, he says. So we'd go hunting in the trash room right after Christmas, when the other kids would throw away their old toys, and I would fix them. My eyes fill with tears. He goes on, I made Spock into a hockey goalie. I made a hockey stick out of an old eyeglass temple, which I put into his broken arm, and I carved goalie pads out of balsa wood, colored them in with magic markers, and sewed them onto his little arms and legs. I made a plastic spoon into a goalie mask, and he was perfect. Salty tears are streaming down my cheeks as I listen deeply. And of course, parenthetically, I wanted to ask so many things and talk, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was just like, no, don't. He goes on. Then I made a goal out of a coat hanger and the plastic mesh from a Thanksgiving turkey.
Wow.
Think about it.
Yeah.
I picture all of this, trying not to move at all so his thoughts can keep flowing. And with the old hockey game, the one with the handles on the sides to control the players, I'd straighten out the handles so it would work. I would use popsicle sticks to replace the missing players. I'm still silenced, heartbroken, hoping he'll keep going. He turns to me and asks, does it make you sad that we couldn't afford the new toys? An understandable question given my tears. And I said, no. I reached for his hand. These are actually happy tears. It just means I'm really lucky to have your heart and your creativity so near to me. I go on. Listening is a matter of hearing beyond our assumptions and expectations and biases and filters and imagination to an openness in which we release what we think we know so we can respect what's actually happening. I'll stop there. There's more, but I think that's...
I'm curious, what was your earliest safe place in all of that tumult?
Under my bed, for
Under
sure.
bed, was it? Really?
Anyone else under the bed?
No, I was scared to death of what was under the bed. Murderers and snakes.
No, there were murderers and snakes in my closet.
Oh, okay.
And my sister would come and hide in my closet to scare me when they shut the door.
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. So under my bed, I knew nothing was there. I had control over the dust ruffle entrance. But it was definitely under my bed. I would have a flashlight, books, stuffed animals. That was my spot. That was my jam.
Yeah, wow. What do you want to tell that version of yourself who hid there?
That's a good question. You're doing great.
Thank you, Elena.
You're doing great. You're doing great. There's this weird chain of events that happens when I started sitting for real for meditation. I've been trying for like 30 years, but really in the last 5. And there's this intimacy that I feel with myself when I'm sitting, and I can feel her under the bed. It's so crazy. You know how this is when you meditate. You can go back to that person, and I go back to all these different people that I've been, and I can give them comfort. And I really swear, I know that some of us feel this, that you can give yourself comfort as a past iteration. You know this, right? Have you felt this before? And it is unmistakable that I feel as though when I do that, and it's only for a glimpse of a second when I'm sitting, because you're not supposed to be doing anything when you're sitting, of course. You're supposed to be breathing and following your breathing. But when I give that person under the bed comfort, I feel like I have closed the loop. I've healed something inside of myself. There's no question that it's happened.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Where was yours?
I was a very, very frightened child. Very frightened. And I was very close to my dad. I really loved my mom when I was young, but I was like a frightened little animal, you know. And I got funny to protect myself from the bullies. But I think I felt safest holding my little brother, who I was raising for them because my parents were such a mess. So when I was 5, I had a baby. And we're still very close. And I felt very safe cuddled with him, and I felt very safe cuddled with my father. And I felt very safe reading. That's it. I could read at a really early age, like you could at 4, and I felt safe if I had a book.
Yep.
And if I could find a little private place to curl up with a book, oh my God, I could breathe.
Totally.
I could breathe.
It's
I get
another
lost.
world.
It was another world. You got lost in it, and that's how you got found. I have so many questions, but you know what? I think we need to see if people here have questions, and if they don't, we'll keep going. But I wonder if anybody here has a question. Yes, Colleen.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I'm going through something right now, and I went back to my room this afternoon, and I logged onto your website and downloaded your meditations. And my blood pressure was, when I started, was off the roof, and here I am tonight, perfectly fine.
Could you hear that in the back? She was really, really going through something, so she went back to her room. There's tons of free Elena meditations online. You can find them. So she listened to several of them. Her blood pressure was spiking and settled right down.
Thank you for what you do for the prisoners, for the children. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody?
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Colleen,
Colleen, it's a pleasure to meet you.
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So let's talk then for another minute about dissolving doubt, okay? Let's do one more section. I have a couple questions because that's the work Neil does with the inner critic that says, no, this book, my inner critic always says that whatever book I'm working on is beating a dead horse.
Right.
I've written it twice already.
Right.
It's published twice. But talk to us about dissolving doubt.
It's funny, I want to read from the book, and I also want to read you this Naomi Shihab Nye poem
Okay?
that it kind of speaks to this. There's
Okay.
a level of reinvention that happens when we realize that we have this doubt that's kind of holding us down or holding us back or keeping us from doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing. You have your humor. We have meetings. This is the wildest poem. It's so circuitous, but I'm just going to read it, and it
Yeah.
ends with, I
Yeah, yeah.
think, what answers this question. It's, okay. The lineage of Zen teachers that I'm in, Catherine Thanis is the teacher of my teacher's teachers. She's kind of like my grand teacher, as it were, in the Dharma. And she has this thing, this little collection of her teachings, lectures called Grass Writing. And in the Grass Writing, I find this poem called Valentine for Earnest Man. Has anyone ever heard it? It's so amazing. No one's ever heard it. Naomi Shihab Nye. It's very Annie. You can't order a poem like you order a taco. Walk up to the counter, say, I'll take 2, and expect it to be handed back to you on a shiny plate. Still, I like your spirit. Anyone who says, here's my address, write me a poem, deserves something in reply. So I'll tell you a secret instead. Poems hide in the bottoms of our shoes. They are sleeping. They are shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. What we have to do is live in a way that lets us find them. Once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for a Valentine. He couldn't understand why she was crying. I thought they had such beautiful eyes. And he was serious. He was a serious man who lived in a serious way. Nothing was ugly just because the world said so. He really liked those skunks. So he reinvented them as Valentines, and they became beautiful, at least to him. And the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of the skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. Check your garage, the odd sock in your drawer, the person you almost like, but not quite, and let me know.
God, she is incredible. Well, does anybody else have any other questions? I see you go first up here, right there. Yeah, and then you.
Hi. Just need a little bit about what you've learned through your work as a chaplain about helping people find peace with their mortality. You mentioned earlier a little bit about seeing life and death as not being something so separate, but being intertwined. And I just love to hear your thoughts about what you've learned in doing this work about what people need and what comforts them.
Thank you. What's your name? Annie. You know, I've been a student to a man by the name of Frank Ostaseski for a long time.
I love Frank.
The best.
The Invitation.
The Five Invitations.
Is one of the most incredible books you will ever read about.
Ever.
Ever, yeah. Excuse
The
me.
first of the Five Invitations is don't wait. That's what I've learned, weirdly. He teaches, there's a Japanese word, shoji, life, death, birth, death. They have it as one word. It's not two words. It's not two concepts. It's one concept. And I've learned in being with the dying that there isn't a then and then. There's just a now. And if I can tune in with the now and stop arguing with reality or how I think it should be or what I think should be happening or how this child, this grown child who's here, who's acting, is not in alignment with what I would like to see for this dying person. I just want peace for them. And there's like, someone coming in and trying to get them to sign a paper when they're dying. I've seen things like this. If I can just sit in the corner and provide an honest, solid presence, somehow things get better. Whatever better is for the person who's dying, not better for me, because it's different every time. I'm learning how to let go. The learning is how to let go of my own agenda. And it serves everyone in the space to do that. So if you're curious about it, what I would say is go do it. Get a training as a volunteer to start and see how it feels to be around the dying. And explore why you're interested in it. What is that? For me, I don't have a chance to read this part of the book, but I actively avoided my grandmother's death, and I was her favorite. Hopefully my cousins won't be watching this. But I was totally her favorite. And maybe she told that to everybody, I don't know. But she told it to me. I did not go. I could have gone. I didn't go. I just stayed away. And ever since then, all I want to do is be with people who are dying and just provide some semblance of presence for them. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what's coming.
But read Frank's book, The Five Invitations.
Yeah.
It's really life-changing.
So
It's really rich. You.
Hi, I'm Harley. I have a question for you. So I'm just coming through one of the hardest years of my life, and just a lot about self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others and guilt and the whole thing. And often in many of the dark nights of the soul, I've often thought about the men and women who are in prison or who don't have the supports and who are working through forgiveness of themselves or for others. And I was so moved by that, and was just wondering if you could just speak to what it's like working with people who are going through that and who are struggling with the choices that they've made in their life.
Yeah, thank you, Harley. Such an interesting predicament for these folks. They really just made a terrible mistake. I don't ever know what they've done because we're not allowed to talk about it. In the men's facility where I am in person, we can't shake hands. I want to hug them every time. We can only fist pound. I can't get any information on them at all. I can just be there. I can offer yoga. I can offer meditation, and I can leave. That's it. The pain that I feel in them is profound, but there is some kind of, there's an interesting dialogue that we can't, it's not words, but there's an interesting dialogue that we have in physical form where I can lead a series of asana practices and postures, and I can offer these little tiny references to integrity and to dignity, as you mentioned. Those things I can offer through the movements, through, how are you standing? Can you find in your body this feeling of clarity and support? Can you feel your feet? Can you feel it in your hands? Can you feel it in the way your collarbones are spreading or your shoulders are settling? Something changes. You can see it and feel it. That's what I can do in this moment. Eventually, my plan is to get into the women's facilities. I think that's going to be where I land as I get older. I have a gal friend of mine, and I've been supporting them financially for a long time. It's called On the Inside. If you're interested, you can look them up. ontheinside.space, I believe, is their website. And they serve women with day-long, often in 6 to 8 week increments, with day-long sort of retreats, let's say, where they go through theater, art, writing, meditation, and yoga. And these are the things that we can do for these folks. They desperately need to be given a context in which they can forgive themselves. And by the way, if you got all the way here to this retreat, you know this, so do you, so do I. I need to give myself context to forgive myself every day. So I'm very familiar with what is needed when I walk into that place. And even though I can't say it explicitly, I can transmit it in the instruction physically. That's the best I can do at this time. And hopefully I'll get to work with the women soon, and then it can be a little more, explicit and do the things that I do that I'm really comfortable doing, talking and inviting writing and reading and so forth.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan.
One more question. Anybody have a burning desire? Well, I was wondering if you had a reading that you could leave us with, that you
Yes.
get from the book.
Okay.
Hold Nothing. It's out in November,
Okay. November 18th.
November 18th.
Grandmother's Heart. This is just what I turned to.
Sure.
It's chapter 5. It's funny because I was talking about my grandmother, and this is a concept in Zen. I'll read it to you, and you'll understand. A fierce heart of tender listening. Grandmother's heart is a cultivation in certain circles of Zen that carries equal measures of humility and compassionate presence. This heart is apparent in our choice to turn toward suffering, toward the difficult, and stay rooted in the ground of our being. Grandmother's heart trusts that we have the capacity to be present with whatever is happening, particularly in times of trouble. This heart is the energy at the source of our love, our practice, and our lives. Equanimity and Grandmother's heart protect us by giving us a base of support for the mass of our lives, writes Roshi Joan Halifax. When I consider the effect of this construct on my life, snapshots arise in my mind. The plush green grass in my childhood front yard, the yellow lines unfurling under my bike's front wheel on our neighborhood streets, wintry Cornell University campus, sideways snowfall trudging to class in the trees, The bustling streets of New York City, the pavement beneath my feet, art classes, especially bookbinding class at Cooper Union with my best friend. What a good one. Countless yoga classes the world over, both as student and teacher. Our tiny secret wedding under the tree in Audubon Park in New Orleans. Our son being handed to me after I gave birth, the way my heart was broken and remade. My heart beating out of my chest as my mother takes her last breaths. Walking with my partner of the last decade on mountain trails through Pinon and Juniper, dusty red soil on our first backpacking trip, pitching our tent for the first time. Grandmother's heart has always lived within me, weaving itself into every one of these scenes. And I would invite you, as we close tonight, maybe even as you're falling asleep, and you place a hand on your body to think about what grandmother's heart means to you in this moment, in this season. Are you afraid? Are you welcoming? What is this energy of moving toward our own death, our own ending? What does that mean to you in this time? I find this to be a very comforting consideration right now. And I know, as I said, I know how young I am. I know I'm just a kid, really, still. But I think this is like the most important practice we can have, just laying in a bed and just knowing, okay, if this is the moment that I have to let go of my body, if this is the moment that I'm going to get a call from some police officer that my son, God forbid, or my partner, am I ready? Am I ready for this? And I keep it front and center, and people think I'm crazy. My sister thinks I'm crazy for doing so, for thinking about this. I think it's actually the most important thing that we can do is be very intimate with that.
My sponsor, who did not go for the God, the male God, or even if she called God the grandmothers. And she pictured them like at a little church where the grandmothers would huddle in back. They adore the children. They have no position on the children, right? The parents are fluttering over the children, wishing they would not squirm as much or whatever. The grandparents have no position on the children. They just could die right that minute seeing them. That's what God's love looks like, I think, to me.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you
Elena
so much.
Brower. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. And Neil will write the schedule down on the board so you'll know what to do. But it's probably pretty similar to today. And then we'll see you at 5 if you want to come back to the 12-step meeting. And I hope everybody gets a good sleep and feels safe and sound here, because you are. And good night.